Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, this evening, I would like to presentation about Chapter 10, Testing Oral Ability, the member group 6. The first is Dara, Azalia, the second is Miya, Aryatno, the third, Bimby, Mentari. First, specifying all appropriate text content operations, type of text, addresses, and topics as a text specification, this time for oral interaction at the intermediate level, serve as an illustration. Operation. The operation is to take part in oral interaction which may involve the following language functions. The first is expressing like a thanks, requirements, opinion, comment, attitude, confirmation, apology, want or need, information, complaints, reasons, or justification. The second is narrating sequence of events eliciting information, direction, service, clarification, help, permission, and all others above. Directing, ordering, instructs how to, persuading, advising, warning. Continuation, reporting, description, comment, decision. Text type, dialogue and multi-participant interactions, normally of a face-to-face nature, by telephone conversation not exclude. Addresses and topics not specified except as under topics for writing. Criteria levels of performance. The fact that particular grammatical structures are not specified as content and that there is no reference to vocabulary or pronunciation doesn't, of course, mean that there are no requirements with respect to these elements of oral performance. This would be dealt with separately as part of a statement of criteria levels. Task 4, the RSA test at intermediate level. The first is have accuracy. Pronunciation still obviously influenced by L1. Thought clear, intelligible, grammatical, or lexical accuracy is generally high. Thought someone errors, which do not destroy communication, are acceptable. And the second is appropriacy, use of language generally appropriate to function. The overall intention of the speaker is always clear. A fair range of language is available to the candidate. He is able to express himself without overtly having to search for words. Continuation, flexibility, is able to take the initiative in a conversation and to adapt to new topics or change of direction that neither of these may be consistently manifested. And the last is size. Most contribution may be short, but some evidence of ability to produce more complex utterance and to develop this into discourse should be manifested. Intermediate ability to create with the language by combining and recombining. Learned elements taught primarily in a reactive mode. Immediate, minimally sustained, and close in a simple way. Basic communication, text and acts and answer question. Intermediate mid, able to handle successfully a variety of uncomplicated, basic, and communicative text and social situation can talk simply, but self and family members can ask and answer question and participate in simple conversation on topics beyond the most immediate needs. For example, personal history and leisure time activities. Format listed here are, are their general formats with brief comments on the more detailed elicitation, elicitation procedures are to be found in the next section. The first is interview. The most obvious format for the testing of oral interaction in the interview in this traditional form, however, it has at least one potentially serious drawback. The relationship between the tester and the candidate is usually such that the candidate speaks as to a superior and is unwilling to take the initiative. As a result, only one style of speech is elicited and many functions, such as asking for the information, are not respected in the candidate of performance. And the second is interaction with peers. Two or more candidates may be asked to discuss three topics, make plans, and so on. The problem with this is that the performance of one candidate is likely to be affected by that of the others. For example, an assertive and incentive candidate may dominate and not allow another candidate to show what he or she can do. If this format is used, candidates should be carefully matched whenever possible. The last response to tape recording. Uniformity of elicitation procedures can be achieved through presenting all candidates only with the same audio or video tape recorder stimuli. This off to promote reliability. There can also be economy where a language laboratory is available since large numbers of candidates can be tested at the same time. The obvious disadvantage of this format is its inflexibility. There is no way of following up candidate response.
Now we're moving on to obtaining a sample that properly represents each candidate's ability and which can reliably judged. So we're now in advice on planning and conducting oral tests. Number one, make the oral test as long as is feasible. It is unlikely that much reliable information can be obtained in less than about 15 minutes, while 30 minutes can probably provide all the information necessary for most purposes. Number two, include as wide a sample of specified content as is possible in the time available. Select what you regard as a representative sample of the specified content, and then plan how you will elicit the necessary behavior. This may well demand the use of more than one format. Number three, plan the test carefully. While one of the advantages of individual oral testing is the way in which procedures can be adapted in response to a candidate's performance, the tester should nevertheless have some pattern to follow. Number four, give the candidate as many fresh starts as possible. This means a number of things. First, if possible and if appropriate, more than one format should be used. Secondly, again, if possible, it is desirable for candidates to interact with more than one tester. Thirdly, within a format, there should be as many separate items as possible. Number 5. Select interviewers carefully and train them. Successful interviewing is by no means easy and not everyone has great aptitude for it. Interviewers need to be sympathetic and flexible characters with a good command of the language themselves. Number 6. Use a second tester for interviews. Because of the difficulty of conducting an interview and of keeping track of the candidate's performance, it is helpful to have a second tester present. Number 7. Set only tasks and topics that would be expected to cause candidates no difficulty in their own language. Number 8. Carry out the interview in a quiet room with a good acoustics. Number 9. Put candidates at their ease. Individual oral tests will always be particularly stressful for candidates. It is important to put them at their ease by being pleasant and reassuring throughout. Number 10. Collect enough relevant information. If the purpose of the test is to determine whether a candidate can perform at a certain predetermined level, then after an initial easy introduction, the test should be carried out at that level. Number 11. Do not talk too much. There is an unfortunate tendency for interviewers to talk too much, not giving enough talking time to candidates. Avoid the temptation to make their lengthy or repeated explanations of something that the candidates has misunderstood. And now elicitation techniques. The appropriateness of each technique will depend upon the specification of the test. Most of them can be fitted easily within an interview framework. Questions and requests for information. Yes or no questions should be avoided. Various functions of the kind listed in the RSA specification above can be elicited through requests of the kind. Can you explain to me how or why? And can you tell me what you think of? Pictures. Single pictures are particularly useful for eliciting descriptions. Series of pictures or video sequences form a natural basis for narration. Role play. Candidates can be asked to assume a role in a particular situation. This allows the ready elicitation of other language functions. Interpreting. It is not intended that candidates should be able to act as interpreters, unless that is specified. However, simple interpreting tasks can test both production and comprehension in a controlled way. Discussion. Discussions between candidates can be a valuable source of information. This may be discussions of a topic or in order to come to a decision. Tape-recorded stimuli. Circumstances may dictate that oral ability be tested in the language laboratory. A good resource of techniques in the ARALs or Association of Recognized English Language School examination in spoken English and comprehension. Imitation. Candidates hear a series of sentences, each of which they have to repeat in turn. This obviously does not in itself represent a cross-section of the oral skills that we are usually looking for, but there is research evidence that provided the sentences are not too short, Learners will make the same kind of errors in performing this task as they will when speaking freely. Techniques not recommended. Prepare monologue. Some examination requires candidates to present a monologue on a topic after being given a few minutes to prepare. If this task were to be carried out in the native language, there would almost certainly be considerable differences between candidates. Reading aloud. There will be significant differences in native speaker performance and inevitable interference between the reading and the speaking skills. Obtaining valid and reliable scoring. Scoring will be valid and reliable only if clearly recognizable and appropriate description of criteria levels are written and scorers are trained to use them.
The criteria level. First, accent. First, pronunciation frequently unlegible. And second, frequent gross errors make understanding difficult. And third, foreign accent. It means requires concentrated listening. And fourth, mark foreign accent and occasional mispronunciation. Five, no conscious space mispronunciation. And the sixth, native pronunciation with no trace of foreign accent. And then grammar. First, grammar almost entirely inaccurate phrases. Second, constant errors showing control of very few major patterns. Third, frequent errors showing some major patterns uncontrolled. And the fourth, occasional errors showing imperfect controls of some patterns. So it's different from number third. And five, few errors. And six, no more than two errors. So in five, there are just few errors, and the six, no more errors anymore. And then vocabulary. First, indicate for even the simplest conversation. Second, link it to basic personal and survival areas. And third, choice of words sometimes inaccurate. Fourth, professional vocabulary adequate to discuss special interests. Five, professional vocabulary broad and precise. And six, vocabulary apparently as accurate and extensive as that of an educated native speaker. So if there are native speaker, of course, her or his vocabulary must be very accurate and extensive. And then fancy. First, speech is so healthy and fragmentary. And second, speech is very slow and uneven except for short or routine sentences. Third, speech is frequently hesitant and jerky. Fourth, speech is occasionally hesitant. Fifth, speech is effortless and smooth. And sixth, speech on all professional and general topics as effortless and smooth as a native speaker. Of course, like I was said before, that if there is native speaker, his or her speech must be very professional and so effortless, smooth. And then comprehension. This is the last. And the first understands too little for the simplest type of conversation. And second, understands only slow, very simple speech on common social and tourist topics. Third, understands careful, somewhat simplified speech on common social injured or in a dialect. Fourth, understands quite well normal educated speech. Fifth, understands everything in normal educated conversation. And the sixth, understands everything in both formal and collegial speech. Training of scores. So the workability of such criteria, like I've been said before in before slide, depends on the training of scholars to recognize what is intended. This is in fact true even for the most precise descriptions. The usual method is to familiarize the scorers with the rating system and play them, or preferably video recordings of past interviews and etc., which clearly represents different critical levels. Once these are consistently identified by the trained, less clear cases are presented. Only when trainees can be relied upon to score with consistent accuracy should they be entrusted with live scoring. Use of more than one scorer. A single scorer is unlikely to be as reliable as one would wish if two testers are involved in three loosely defined interviews. Then they can independently assess each candidate. If they agree, there is no problem. If they disagree, even after discussion, then a third assessor may be referred to. And this is the last from the oral is conclusion. The accurate measurement of oral ability is not easy. It takes considerable time and effort to obtain valid and reliable results. Nevertheless, where backlash is an important consideration, the investment of such time and effort may be considered necessary. Yeah, that's all from Pen Group. Sorry if we make a mistake. Yeah, we are just human. Thank you for your attention.